All right, you're up live. If you're joining us on Facebook or YouTube, we're going to get started in a few minutes. We have Celia Werner and we have David Henney joining you from our respective domiciles. Are you in your? I'm in my my master bedroom. You are in your attic, I believe.
Yes, this is my attic studio. So I am coming live from the studio.
These are the home office. So it's 7 o'clock. We're going to wait a few minutes and then we will begin. Perfect. All right. All right. I'm going to pull up a little graphic here. There we go. How's it going today, Celia?
It's going pretty well, you know, just another day at home.
Yes, we've had many of those.
Yes,
very exciting to
2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. Who knows?
Just about, yeah. It's good to be doing something that is not watching television right now. That's what I would usually be doing.
This is true. I am sharing this to my Facebook page. 1 second. All right, there we go.
Any shows that you're binge watching right now?
So I did Tiger King. I did. And then I was like, all right, what was big before Tiger King? So I did Love is Blind. So I'm going through the Netflix lineup right now. Right now, I am starting Ozark because season 3 came out. I watched the first episode and it was pretty good. Interesting concept. I'm not sure what I'm going to watch after Ozark. Do you have any recommendations?
I went back to Deadwood on HBO. A few HBO shows that I'm trying to catch up on.
Gotcha.
So if you're tuning in now, we're talking about shows that we've been binge watching. We're going to get started at 7:05. We're just waiting. If you want to sound off in the comments about what show you've been binge watching, if you can recommend something, we'll put you on the screen and we'll add that to the dialogue right now. But Tiger King, I just had a baby and I lose track of what's happening and then it just seems insane and I can't make sense of any of it. So I have to start over again. So I've done it like dozens of times.
I feel like whenever you watch that, by episode, it just goes deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. And by the end, it's just like a giant dumpster fire.
That's the best television, though.
Yeah, I'm actually doing a live on my Instagram tomorrow with a career coach named Corey LoJudas. And she and I are talking about a lesson in branding based off of what was done in the Tiger King.
I hear a few people are going to teach courses on the Tiger King program. I think one of them was Jamie Cohen, who is I'm
not surprised. Jamie's awesome.
So we have to check out that course when it becomes active. So I think I'm going to go ahead and get started. For those of you joining us and those of you that will join us when we re-air this, I am David Henney. I am the Director of Content Strategy at the Lawrence Herbert School of Communication. And with me today is Celia Werner, who graduated class of 2016. She is a graduate of the BS Video, Television, and Film program. You're involved in Zeta Phi Eta. You were involved in the Heat Network, where you were the general manager. You interned at Nick Jr., which is a dream of mine. And you also interned at Fox News Radio, which is not as much of a dream, but still important.
Yeah.
So for 4 years, you've operated Celia Werner Productions. Oh, Michelle Roberts has mentioned that we're lit. That's very nice. Thank you, Michelle. You've operated Celia Werner Productions. You've been a full-time freelance video producer consultant. You've worked with companies such as Yelp, Groupon, Zillow. You've been working with small businesses across Long Island, where you're located, to create really high-quality cinematic branded content, which is really something that is in high demand. And the best part of it is you're doing it all from home for the most part. You're doing a lot of post-production, editing, video, streaming. which is really important right now because literally everybody is home. And we're all trying to figure out how can we start producing content that looks a little bit best standard, like I am right now. I do not look that great. I am in 720. You're in ultra high def. I do not have a green screen, which you do. I do not have fancy equipment, and I can see some behind you. So the value of this presentation right now, this conversation is going to be, you're going to help us, the regular folk like me and myself, and most of the audience who are not live streamers and production folk, how to get to the next stage, how to work from home like a pro. So what I can see right off the bat is your picture, way better than mine, your setup, much more intimidating. Can you explain why it shouldn't be intimidating and how I can achieve that kind of look at a relatively frugal budget?
Well, I don't know if you'll get the actual GH5 setup like I have right now on a frugal budget, but I do have things that you can do to improve your lighting, your audio, and your content by making small changes to what you're doing and buying some products that are, as I've tested, pretty good, but not going to break the budget. Like, for instance, I'm using a little lav mic right now, and this was like a $20 lav mic that it came with 2 lavs, and I'm able to plug right into the computer, and it's really great for video chats and video streaming because it's clearer than a laptop, and it works pretty well. It's called Fine, and I can provide, I guess, some sort of link afterwards. So one of the biggest things that you are going to notice between a professional and non-professional video setting is the audio, because a lot of times the audio on a project is way more important than you would expect, because someone will watch a fuzzy, grainy video if it has good audio. But if it's the other way and it's a super sharp image, but it has bad audio, people are less likely to be involved with that video. So the first thing I would say is invest in your audio somehow. It can be a $20 lav, or you can go and do something like this, where you get a condenser mic or a dynamic mic, and you can use it like a podcast setup on your video streams. So that would be my recommendation on audio.
So the Fine lav mic, I don't know if I spelled that correctly on the banner. How much was that when you said it was like $20?
It was about $20. It's FINE. So it comes with one like this, and then it comes with one like if I wanted to be like a TED Talk person and have like something wrap around my head and have like the microphone over here. I don't have that one next to me, but I should. But
okay, cool. And how much?
Yeah, if you're
sorry, the other mic, the podcasting microphone, is that higher end, like hundreds of dollars for one of those?
Yeah, I don't think it's hundreds of dollars. I will tell you right now.
And what's the name of that one?
It is the Blue Yeti microphone. Which one is it though? It is $130 at Best Buy. It is the Blue Yeti electric condenser microphone. So
that's sort of,
this one's like $129, whereas this one is like $19 for 2. So it really depends on the style that you're going to use it for. This is better if you're going to pin it on someone and just have them speak. But the nice thing about a microphone like this is it's multi-directional. If I have me and another person on the other side of it, it has a different kind of pickup pattern where it can use both of our voices. So it depends if it's one person on screen, 2 people on screen. It depends on also what the content is.
Nice. So I'm seeing some intimidating things in the background. I keep using that word for people like me. Something like a ring light around a camera is something that looks very fancy. Can you explain why it's not that sophisticated and why it is essential?
All right, so I will shift around. So I'm going to start with this one over here. Wow, everything's backwards. So this is the lesser version of that. This is a phone tripod. So the way that this works is it has tiers that go up and down so that you can make it either short or tall, compared to like stacking your phone on top of a bunch of books to do something like record an Instagram live or record TikTok's actually really big right now because everyone's home and it's a very easy, short content platform for people to put fun videos on. So what you would do is you would take your phone, it goes into this little clamp over here, and then that's it. That's all you got to do. Nice. So I use this for all of my Instagram lives because I have studio lighting, so I don't have to worry about getting extra light on my face. And I like how this is built because instead of spreading out towards the bottom, this has like the bottom is more towards a light stand than it is towards spread out like tripod legs. So it's pretty sturdy, and it comes with a little Bluetooth remote if you're doing something where you need like to be away from the camera. So this is my first recommendation for like a phone tripod. Let me put this down, stay. And then my second recommendation would be one with a ring light. Like I mentioned, this one's bottom is more towards a light stand, whereas this one spreads out like a tripod. And I feel like I'm going to kick it over sometimes, but I haven't done it yet. And the nice thing about this is it plugs in via USB, and then it has a little controller right here. And what you can do is you can change the light temperature and the intensity of the actual light. So if you are in front of a window and you are adding extra light and it has such like a blue tint to it, you can add a blue tint. Same with if you're indoors, you can add an orange tint. So it gives you a lot of options. And then you put your phone right here, and that's how you use that one. So those are my two mobile device tripods, I guess, because sometimes tripods for cameras can be expensive, and this is just like a nice budgetary way to have something to hold your phone for those long either lives or videos of you doing things yourself.
Nice. So for the two, are these comparable in price, or is this a different scale? Obviously, there are different peripherals for each, but that stand to your right, over your right shoulder, the initial one, that is like a basic, your right shoulder, that's like a basic stand. And the lighting, the ring light, that's like a little step above. So obviously that's going to scale a little higher, but still these are prices that are affordable for anybody like myself who is going to be working a lot more from home, especially with video broadcasts like this.
Yeah, this one I believe was about $25, and this one was a little closer to $60 because it had the light. So it really depends on what you need. I know that for, like I mentioned, the app TikTok, a lot of people are getting something more like this because they want that lighting. They want that bright light on their face to make them look like they have no flaws. And if you notice by watching some of those kinds of things, there's a little white circle in their eye from the ring light. So you can really tell when someone's using a ring light. But the other option is you can get something like an LED panel, which this is also like in the 20s, where you can, I don't have a battery for it because I don't plan on turning it on and blinding you guys, but it has LED lights on the inside, and you can use this with a camera or a phone or anything that you're using as a recording device, and you can kind of place it overhead and it'll light you that way. I actually am using a larger version of this as my studio lights right now, and let me see if I can switch my camera to show you real quick. So now I'm on my laptop camera, and you can see that I'm using that to light the green screen. So it's more so on preference. Obviously, the one that's lighting the green screen is a more expensive one, but you can get a little light panel like this for $20, $30. So that is another thing that you can do for lighting. But the cheapest thing that you can do for lighting is to just sit in front of a window. Open the blinds, use the window light as your lighting for the video, the conference call, whatever it may be, because that's going to give you the I would say like most natural looking light. Whereas if you're using a lamp or something, which you can definitely use a lamp, just put it like behind and above your computer so that it gives you light from above instead of below. So it doesn't look like you're holding a flashlight and being in a scary movie. So the window light is going to come in naturally from above, and it's going to look good on camera.
And you were generous about the Zoom lighting with us earlier in the week, or it might have been last week. So definitely check that out on our feed. And it's also on Celia Werner's feed as well. And your handle is Celia
_Werner. Werner. It's right there.
That's right. And I did not put mine there because my title is too long for anything else. If you have any questions about anything, please do include any information you want to find out. If you have any questions about lighting or anything that we may have covered before, but we've moved past that. Oh, Fred O'Neill. Thanks for commenting, Fred. Good to have you on the live stream.
Hi, so, Fred. I don't know Fred, but hi.
Fred is in Tim Femmel's office. He's in the facilities management office. He's really cool. He's a good guy.
I'll have to come back and meet everyone at some point.
Yes, you should do something in the building when it is opening again, and hopefully soon.
Sounds good. I live like 10 minutes away.
Yeah, stop on by. Another tip, and I found this sort of down at my laptop when I was on it, because I would, I'm not as high as the laptop is. I've been propping my laptop up on a little box or a stack of books. It's been a lot better to be at eye level with the camera. You're less, likely to look down and be at that awkward angle. So that's my tip. That's the only one I have for the entire conversation, but that's the one I have.
Well, it's a really important tip because framing is very important when you're doing these kinds of live streams. If you look right now, I have my eye line to my main camera over here, if not a little bit higher, because that's a more aesthetically pleasing angle than shooting from below, because you don't want to see all of that double chin happening in the videos, because you are taking the time to be on camera, be in these meetings, and taking the effort from home. You want to make sure that you look the best that you can, sound the best that you can, and get the most return on doing whatever you're doing.
Exactly. So I'm interested if we could shift briefly, like we could talk about how you ended up in the kind of area you are now as far as your profession. Because like I said earlier, you were in a program for television and film, the BS. You graduated in 2016, and you've been working for how many years now? Pretty much after graduation.
So I actually incorporated my business in 2013, and throughout school, I was working as a photographer for Sweet 16s, weddings, and other events. And luckily, I had enough volume that I actually paid my loans off before I graduated. So I had my business, but it wasn't a full-time thing. And like we mentioned earlier, I interned for a couple of small businesses, like small production companies. I interned for Nick Jr., Fox News. And then I worked at Fox News as a PA, and then I worked for a couple of TV shows as a PA. And what I was doing on the weekends for small businesses and for events was paying better than what I was doing during the week. So I decided to go into freelance full-time, working with small businesses. And that's how I got involved with Yelp, Groupon, Zillow, 1-800-Dentist, all of these places that needed a local video producer for their national company, because 1-800-Dentist can't be in all 50 states to make these videos themselves if they're based in somewhere else in America. I work with a company based out of Nashville, but they have a lot of clients in New York, so they needed someone here. And then I was doing that. I was advertising, and I was showing what I was doing on Instagram, and my company has been building. I have a couple of people that subcontract work from me now. I have a couple of freelancers that work with me, and I do that, and I have my own active online stuff, I'm going to say, because I have a podcast, I have a YouTube channel, and I turn out daily content on Instagram. So I've done a little bit of everything. I've worked with everyone from influencers to small businesses to very large businesses. I actually shot video for the 4th of July concert in Jersey City for Pitbull and Akon last year. So freelance has opened a lot of interesting doors for me. So I would like to just make a little plug that freelancing is possible after graduation. It's just not really spoken about as much in school, because you're being prepped for positions and corporate like TV shows and things like that, where there is a typical producer, a typical director, and all of these different positions, where a lot of the shoots that I do are like a one-man band shoot. So I come in with all of my gear and I sit down with a client or a company, and I do all of the work from beginning to end. So that's a little bit of how I got to where I am. And I've worked with a couple hundred businesses in the 4 years that I have been doing this. Nice. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think they're people that basically have a jack of all trades sort of portfolio, to be a one-man band or one-woman band, to go in and basically say, I can do everything from photo to video to promotion to social. To have all the tools in your arsenal is amazing. And I think we're seeing that more. You're not just hired to be, one necessarily concentrated area. You're expected to know all aspects. So to have the sort of content that you're putting out on your social channels shows that, capacity that you have. And then to see all the quality of the products that you put out makes you seem that you know what you're doing, you're competent, and you also outside of just knowing lighting and knowing photo. So I think this is all very, very valuable. Now that we're home, we basically have these opportunities to explore and learn about all of these different channels outside of the classroom. So how has your work kind of shifted? This is an interesting conversation for a lot of people, myself included. Over the last month, you've been ramping up more on your social side or on your own promotional side, because obviously you can't go on location anymore to all of these spots. So how is that working out, and how do you kind of adjust and realign?
So it's very interesting as a freelancer at this time, because when all of the news started coming out, I was actually in Disney World on a job. So I'm sitting there in literally Epcot looking at my phone and seeing all of these things starting to come out from New York. And I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be here right now, but maybe I spent $160 to get in here and get parked. So I'm going to walk around and take some video. And then I was working a conference, and each day I saw more and more and more coming out, and more people were emailing me, canceling their events, their shoots, and things along those lines, because by the time I was getting back, it was right before New York was shutting down. So it was a really interesting time, because there is no rule book, no, hey, this is the way that you're going to handle everything for any of this situation, really. So I, as a business owner, had to make a couple of decisions. So decision one is I wanted to come and be in front of my audience during this time, because if you are not posting and you're not creating content, you are not connecting with your audience, your followers, whatever it may be, to assure them that, hey, I'm doing okay, we're handling everything this way, and we're going to be here after this is all done. Because if you don't do that, then people might worry. If they have you booked for, a wedding in 2021, are you going to still be able to do weddings in that time? They don't know. So that was the first thing that I had to figure out. The second thing I had to figure out is, how am I going to pivot to still be bringing in money during this situation? Because a lot of what I do is going on site, taking video, doing live streams, because I engineer live streams clearly. And I had to figure out what the best course of action was. So I pivoted to doing some online content with assets that people already have, such as real estate house tours. I pivoted to offering live stream engineering from where I am, because you can call in with your phone and have me doing all of the graphics, the video roll-ins, all of those kinds of things from my home, and doing more consulting. So that was the pivot that I had to make at the point of like deciding how I'm going to make money. And then the last thing that I decided to do was step up the content, because I usually post one piece of content a day. I decided to double that, start using stories, and start using Instagram Live to record my podcast, which I started on Saturday. and have now done 5 episodes of. So I decided that it was time to step it up, and I wanted to be that resource for education for people if they need to know how to do something like light their own video calls, or I'm going to be putting out one about video call audio. And I did a video about how to how to record your home workout, because a lot of people are now working out with their trainers, but they need to send video so the trainers can, fix their form and things like that. So there's a lot of things that people can be educated on right now, and that's one of the things I'm concentrating on. And the other thing I'm concentrating on is providing value, whether it's entertainment value, education value, any of those kinds of things, so that people can, break out of their house for a second by watching my video. So that's kind of how I've been going about all of this, David.
Yeah, and I think it makes a lot of sense because, everybody is stuck at home right now, and they're looking for distractions from the news. So to see content being produced, especially at the sort of volume that somebody like you is producing, is really helpful to engage an audience and to especially retain an audience. If anybody has any questions about social posting or content, or even the equipment that we just talked about before that's in the background of Celia, drop a line, drop a comment, we'll share you up here. And if you want to discuss anything, we'll be talking in about 10 minutes. We'll be taking more questions and doing Q&A. So I really want to get into sort of the philosophy of what's behind the sort of content that you build and why you do it. Obviously, you went into the school communication because you had a certain level of interest in communication. And Patty says, way to go, Celia.
Hi,
Patty. So obviously you had a trajectory when you went into the program, self-sufficient, comfortable doing everything that you want to do. Did that take time, or has this kind of been something that you always knew you had a voice and you'd be sharing your vision regardless of the format or the style that you did it?
Do you mean like me on camera, or do you mean like just me helping out with photo video?
Just knowing that you wanted to, and it is a two-part conversation. One is content and the stuff that you're putting out creatively. The other part is the background, the equipment, and the style. Obviously, you learned a lot about the equipment at the School of Communication, the importance of lighting, the importance of good audio, and all of that. The creative vision that you had to basically run your own show and sort of promote yourself in your own company. Was that something that you entered with, or was that something that was sort of built within you over the time at the school?
So the reason that I even came to Hofstra is because I wanted to be a YouTuber way back in the day in high school when I was looking at colleges. And I would go to the colleges and one would look like a high school, or one had like a so-so like looking department where it's like, hey, it's more theory than it is hands-on. And clearly I like the hands-on stuff. So the second I walked into Studio A, I was like, this is the school I want to go to, with all of the lights and the studio cameras. So that's what drew me in. But in terms of where I am now, I always had an entrepreneurial, take charge, producer-esque background in terms of how I would work either in team projects, when I'm working on shows. Like, I know that I don't think it's there anymore, but for FYI, I was the producer, and then I was the series coordinating producer. So like, I always liked kind of running the show. So when I was working for a TV show, I'm not going to name the company or anything, but I was the office production assistant. And I was overqualified for the job, but I took it anyway. So the reason that I decided I wanted to go on my own after working at this TV show and this TV company for a couple of shows was I was doing everyone's job above me. I was doing the line producer and the coordinating producer's jobs, except for like signing checks, doing negotiations and everything like that. I was the one that was finding all of the locations. I was finding I was getting like the permission from the different cities for us to be walking around on the street. I was doing all of these things that were not in my job description. My job description was going through and scanning and copying paperwork, but I don't think that location scouting and talking to like the government in the different cities and getting all of the, I can't remember the word right now, but like all of the not licensing, but the permission to shoot there. So I was like, why am I like doing these guys' jobs when I can do this myself? So I decided, instead of doing things for businesses and doing events on the weekends, I would just start taking more of these kinds of jobs and doing it full time. In terms of the online presence that I've built for myself, I would tell people that I was a video producer, but they wouldn't really understand what that means or how it was relevant to their business, their life, whatever it may be. So I started taking behind the scenes photos, behind the scenes videos, sharing my work and doing all of that. And I was like, I'm going to do this every day for a year and see what happens. And I had a bunch of effects from that. So I started out with like 1,000 followers. And after that year, I was at 4,500 followers, which was great. And the real world effect of that was people understood what I needed them to know to hire me. So like a small business would see I worked with another small business and go, oh, I need social media videos, or, oh, I need a video for the landing page of my website. Can you help me with that? Because previously, before that, a lot of the response that you get when you say you're a videographer or something along those lines is, oh, I'm not getting married right now, but I'll remember you when I do. And that's not so. I do weddings, but that's not my main gig. I work with small businesses and entrepreneurs and different people trying to make more so web content rather than, going and shooting a 10-hour wedding. So it really did help to be putting out that content, to be connecting with people and educating people on what it is I do and how to ask me for the different things that they need. I hope I answered your question.
That was good. It was perfect. So I think addressing a lot of sort of the trajectory that you had to current students is important, and to also kind of dispel all the fears that go along with doing what you do. So what was sort of the biggest hurdle, whether it be like not thinking that you had the right equipment or not thinking that you had the right philosophy? Is the story more important than the setup? Is this sort of vision more important than the amount of equipment you have?
So in terms of making content, I'm gonna keep it with like making content and rather than making like business decisions, because that's a whole other like TED talk on like, how do I price things and how do I do this and like who do I need to network with, because that's a very whole other thing in itself. But for what we're talking about today, I would say that the story or what you're talking about in your content is more important or trumps the gear that you have, because people film things every day. People film things on their iPhones. They film things on their laptops. It could be whatever someone just has around their house. As long as the content draws in the viewer and adds value to their day, whether it, like I said earlier, entertainment value, educational, or even just, like I said, to make someone feel good. That is more important than the camera that you're using. I've shot some things this week on my cell phone because, I just needed to get it out. And I didn't want to go through this whole setup here to make that happen. But the thing is, on that cell phone video, which one of the things that I shot was how to shoot your home workout. That, for the most part, was on my cell phone, except for a couple shots showing the distance of how far the phone was from me. And that was received very well because there was a story, there was something that provided value for the person watching. It wasn't someone going, oh, it looks like it was shot on a cell phone, I'm not going to watch this. People like responded to it. They said like, hey, thank you. I'm gonna send this to my like trainees, I guess you can call them, because people need the information or want to see the information. So they're not going to sit there and judge you by what like quality of video equipment you have, because not everyone has the setup like I have right now. One of the big things to note on that is like if you think of, I keep bringing TikTok up just because it's blown up during everyone being home. TikTok is primarily something that is shot on cell phones. So people are creating stories, they're doing dances, they're doing all of these things, and they're recording it on their cell phone, and they're getting thousands and thousands and millions of views and subscribers. So that just kind of proves that you don't need a full setup to create something that's going to bring people joy or bring people value.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I think, sorry, I'm playing with, and I'm using this software for the first time. It's another lesson in, basically exposing yourself to new things out of necessity. This is great. I'm using something called StreamYard. If you have any questions on this software, let me know and comment, and I'll include that in the conversation. But I think that point is amazing, because a good idea is always going to be a good idea. It doesn't matter the year or the format it's in. So yes, to have something that's maybe not 1080 or ultra high def doesn't make it more valuable as far as content goes. It start with the idea first and then build it up as much as you'd like. So
definitely,
when you're doing a lot of post-production, like the videos that you put out, how sort of strenuous is the task of doing like post-production work? Because when you talk about TikTok or you talk about Instagram stories, that's basically slapping a GIF, doing a quick little dance, and then that's good to go. The stuff that you're doing, the more advanced, polished video, is that intimidating because it takes a longer time to do, or is that something that's you're able to suggest certain software applications that fine-tune it and make it easy to do?
I mean, every video is different. For instance, like when I'm doing a video, I recorded a Zoom walkthrough. That's going to be something that's quicker and easier to edit, because it's more so I went through the whole process, and you're just going to cut it up and shrink it down to whatever is most important. But for instance, a lot of the behind the scenes videos that I do take a while, because I have all of this footage that I have to sift through and go through, figure out what is important to make it in, what's not, try and do the fancy effects, because that's what people want to see for behind the scenes videos. So those take longer. Obviously, like I personally use Adobe Premiere for my videos, and then I use Lightroom and Photoshop for my photo editing. But if you don't have that, that doesn't mean that you can't be involved, you can't edit. Obviously, there's iMovie on Macs, and there's Windows Movie Maker, I believe. I don't know if they changed the name since last time I had a PC, but that can be used on PC. And then there's other free ones like, I think it's called Hit Pro Film. I'm going to actually double check that. Hit Pro Film. Yeah, Hit Film Pro. I was close. That you can download for free and use on your computer as an editing software. So you have options out there. And the coolest thing is, if you have an iPhone, there's actually iMovie on the iPhone. So if you are shooting things on your phone and just need to do a quick cut, I've actually done a couple of things on my phone.
Nice. And the cameras that you're using, obviously your cell phone is one of them. What's your go-to sort of recording video camera? And is that something that's way beyond any of our budgets?
It is a little bit of a budget thing. I use the Panasonic Lumix GH5, which is pretty expensive, and I use like Canon L series lenses. So my kit that is over here right now is a couple of $1,000s. But that's why I like to reiterate the point that like you can use your laptop, you can use your phone, but you also can get budget friendly things like a point and shoot camera, or you can get like a DSLR that's not maybe as high end as mine, but it would be a good starter camera. Like if you go for like the Canon Rebel series or a Canon PowerShot for a point and shoot, it'll give you that HD image. It just isn't going to break the bank like a GH5 would.
Right. Cameras, I mean, you're coming from a photography background too, so you're looking at like the best image quality that you could possibly get. So you have a long history of all these experiences and equipment. Are you seeing, and I'm kind of loaded in this question, but are you seeing more user-friendly applications, user-friendly programs that basically do a lot of the heavy lifting as far as editing, post-production go. Not getting into the niche details, but doing a lot of the general work.
I mean, a lot of people are using, like for photos, they're using Lightroom with presets. So that cuts out all of the time editing the photo because you just drop it on and make your minor adjustments. And I know that there's a ton of apps that are on the phones that will do like After Effects work and things along those lines. I don't personally use them, so I don't know them off the top of my head, but there are plenty of things out there if you go through like the Apple Store and things like that to just look around. And some of them are paid, some of them are free, but they do add all of those effects. And if you are recording something on like Instagram Live, not live, Instagram Stories or TikTok, you can put filters on. Snapchat does filters. And some of them are more elaborate than others.
Yes. As we know, I don't know at all. I'm making that up. I am 36, and every time I use Snapchat, I feel very confused. But I've done TikTok, and I feel like I'm confident that we can really build out the Herbert Schools TikTok. If you have a TikTok idea, please do comment, and we'll post it on the screen, and I will try to dance or do something in that fashion. So we're going to wrap up in about 5 minutes. And I want to make sure we cover everything before we say goodbye. Do you have any words of wisdom to current students sort of facing this new reality, which is, its own certain horror, but also facing the real world as it exists outside of the last month?
So a couple words of wisdom that I have for the current students are definitely keep creating. So even though you're home, you're on the couch, you're just sitting around, you can be creating and making something, because what you make, whether it's Instagram content, YouTube content, podcast, whatever it is, can eventually turn into a full-time job. There are plenty of people making money off of Instagram or getting their podcasts sponsored and things along those lines. So I wouldn't count this time out as a non-productive time. You can be creating things and building a name for yourself. In addition to doing that, I would really, really, really like to stress this, especially for people that have another year at the school, is take behind the scenes pictures and post them. If you don't think that people Google you or look at your Instagram before hiring you or things along those lines, they're going to look for you. So if you have all of these great behind the scenes shots of you using cameras, you in the studio and things along those lines, they're going to have a visual of, hey, this person knows what they're talking about because they have all of this experience, instead of looking at a sheet of paper that is your resume and going, this person sounds like a good fit. And I also would say just keep networking with all of your friends from either class or from school, because those are the people that are going to be coming up in the industry with you. And they're also people that can be collaborating with you at home right now, because you can be talking with them and figuring out different topics. And for all you know, you guys can make like a competition show from 2 different houses. You never know, and you got to keep an open mind, because you're making things at home, yeah, but that's a challenge that you're taking on. It's not you're doomed to do things at home. It's, hey, I'm taking the time and I'm looking at all my resources as to what I can do and how I can make content and bring this all together. So those are just a few things that I think are really important for people to keep in mind going forward, especially because I know that a lot of you are used to doing all your classes in studio, and now you're going to be kind of working more so how you're going to work after you graduate if you want to make something, because you don't have all of this gear readily available. You have to use what you're going to have around the house, or you have to buy things. So use this opportunity as a time where you can play around with that, but also get feedback from your peers, from your professors, and use what you have to make some amazing things.
That's awesome advice to end on. And you touched on a couple of really cool points. One of them was kind of personal branding, which I think is really relevant right now, because you're kind of promoting yourself a lot in this time. So yeah, to have those really high res pictures in really cool looking spaces like Studio B, which has just been done, Studio A, which is huge, RHU, the radio. We have this really cool equipment on look like a pro essentially, and you will be known as one
Exactly.
because you'll actually have the information and the knowledge. So yeah, to convey that in an image, in a website, in your own social presence is super important right now, because people, yeah, they don't know that about you. They need to know that. So we're gonna wrap up right now. If anybody has a lot to get to it right now, otherwise, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to do this, and everyone here,
Oh, no problem.
definitely, you have to follow. I keep pointing in the wrong direction. You have to follow Celia at Celia_Werner and Celia Werner Productions. You're putting out daily content now. You have a podcast. You have how-to videos, which, I mean, we've just posted one, and it's changed the lives of every faculty and administrator
Hey,
that I've shared with.
they want to look good, so obviously, like, you gotta light yourself. You gotta learn to do it. So I'm glad that everyone looks good now.
So thank you so much for doing this, and I'm really glad we got to use this forum to basically have this conversation in a time where we don't see anybody but the one or two or handful of people that are in our homes right now. So we'll definitely have it back, and I want to continue this conversation and touch on a lot more things. But I will keep this interview sort of on our page archived, and I will give it to you as well. You can download, you can share this as well. And we'll post sort of the tips and equipment as a list, because that was really interesting when we, off the top of the hour, when we were talking about what sort of equipment was behind you and what sort of equipment you recommend. So thank you everybody for tuning in at this late hour on Thursday, when I'm sure everybody's out partying. No, God, I hope you're not doing that.
I mean, I was partying.
Thank you again.
I was partying all day. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, thank you so much for having me on. And if anyone has any further questions for me, they can always DM me on Instagram. I basically live on that app, so that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. Sorry for making my plug, David.
That's totally necessary, and I expect you to do that. All right. Thank you so much, Cecilia. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you soon. Take care, everybody.